Heisman vote and an MVP vote.
Oh, wow. Say it
See,
again.
that's why he gets the introduction.
That's exactly why he gets the good introduction.
I'm figuring out the tone here.
And the only guy that we haven't been able to introduce for the last couple of shows is actually back in Studio 34, hanging out in L.A. That's right, Uncle P, Paul Pierce.
The truth.
Is joining us.
The truth.
How y'all doing? It's all
You see how...
Focus on us?
Yeah, why the energy level so down?
You gonna get
all
Celtics
business.
focus on us?
This is serious time. It's all business.
Oh, okay.
I like, yeah, Paul.
Okay.
Paul got his boys on text.
He ain't playing today.
Going back and forth with Danny, hitting up Brad. We see you, Paul. Got it.
Okay,
Love it.
Keep that same energy. We're going to get to your Celtics, but first we want to talk about the West because we do know that the Western Conference Finals are set. And we didn't think this was going to happen, but it did. It's 9-1 in the conference finals entering the series, and the lone loss coming in 2009 against the Magic. How about LeBron James will make his 11th appearance in this round? As for the Nuggets, they are back in the conference finals for the first time since 2009 when Carmelo Anthony was leading the team. They lost in 6 games to Kobe Bryant and the Lakers that time. Meanwhile, in LA, we know that we were going to probably see LeBron James and AD in this matchup. You didn't think that the Nuggets were coming. So my biggest question is, what can we expect from the Nuggets and Lakers series?
Wow. First off, can we clown the Clippers?
Yeah, do you want to?
Okay. I picked them to win the championship. I picked them to win the West. But at least I picked them to play against LeBron and the Lakers. Like, I'll give the Nuggets their flowers later over the next couple of weeks. But to be winning double figures in multiple games, be up 3-1, have Kawhi Leonard, Paul George not show up, Lou Will, Montrez not show up, Doc Rivers third time, up 3-1 and his squad lose, I didn't see that coming. I looked down at my phone, Marie, I was like, what is way off P?
Yeah.
That was a playoff P. Oh. I was like, yo, this is really happening. And they got waxed.
They did.
They ain't lose Jay by a game-winning shot. They got waxed. So y'all can give the Nuggets their love, but I had to make sure that I talked about the Clippers because
I'm glad you said that because you were so quick to pick them. You guys are both so quick to pick them.
I mean, well, you look at the versatility that they had, and you would think that their leadership in Kawhi and P, but after watching multiple series with them, like, they have no leadership. They have no leadership. Think about all the best players on the teams that are in the bubble right now. Like, LeBron James' energy translates towards his team. Jimmy Butler's energy translates towards his team. For Kawhi Leonard, he's emotionless. That energy doesn't translate to the team. It doesn't impact their team. He can score a lot of buckets, but nobody was actually leading this team.
Well, Paul, Uncle P, who do you think is the most to blame then? We're gonna break down a blame pie in a second, but first, Uncle P, I want you to dive into it for us.
And it always falls on your stars. I mean, you got to be able to take the responsibility. When you're the guy, when you win, you get all the praise and all the flowers. When you lose, it's got to be put on guys like Kawhi and Paul George. And so these guys didn't step up in a moment when they really, really needed it. I mean, come on. 3-1, 2 16-point leads, even one 19-point lead. Let's not forget, it was a 19-point game. This falls on your stars. And so they have to be held accountable. Yeah, they're going to say, this is our first year together. But when I look around, this is the Lakers' first year together. This is the Celtics with Kemba Walker's first year together. This is the first year with Jimmy Butler and the Heat first time together. The only team that can say they've been together for a few years is the Denver Nuggets. So there's no more excuses. So, you know, this is a failed season for the Clippers. Expectations is championship when you bring a guy like Kawhi Leonard on board and Paul George.
Oh, and I didn't mention one of the best owners, one of the richest people in the world, Bomber, writing a blank check to get whatever you need. Jerry West in the front office pushing all of the right buttons. And then all of a sudden you go against a Nuggets team with no championship experience and they bounce you and blow you out? You don't even get a chance to get the LA versus LA series. We was there before the pandemic hit. And all of us was like, it's going to be LA, LA. It's going to be LA, LA.
Wrong.
Jamal Murray shot them boys down.
I was going to say, we can pass blame all we want, but how much do we have to give it to Jamal Murray and the Joker for what they were able to do in Game 7?
Well, we're going to see it in this play that I'm going to show, but Jokic is 11. This team is 11-3 when he drops a triple-double. And his vision is like a quarterback in the pocket, literally looking off the safety. As you see the play develop, I mean, it's really incredible to watch in real time. So you're going to see the screen. As he gets off the screen, you're going to see 1, 2, he draws attention. You're going to see him slip right here, and when he slips, the defense has to make a decision. What are you doing? You coming to help? You coming to help. He's going to stay home here. So you see him, he slips, he catches the ball. Now as he catches the ball, look at this. Look how he looks off the defender. You're having him, he comes over, he helps. Look at the vision. The vision is pointing towards here. He is reading what this defender is doing. He's making him go in that direction. But as he looks him here, he's going to pass the ball to Gary Harris. And by the way, look at this, J. Rose. Look at your big man, vertical, under control, poised, looking off the safety, boom, kicks out to Gary Harris, drops a three. Him catching the ball in the middle of the floor after they run that PNR action can give teams fits, and it forces you to scatter. And when you scatter, he has the ability to make plays under control. They knock down threes.
It's crazy because the Joker had 2 15-rebound triple-doubles in Game 7s. Like, that's what he's been able to do. You said you needed a therapist for how much you love the Joker. You still picked the Clippers even though you needed a therapist, but he's been doing the same thing all series.
Because I wanted to give the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard his love. He had just won Finals MVP, shot everybody down. As a member of the Raptors, when he went to the Clippers, I gave him the crown. He don't have it no more. And the Joker knocked it off of his head. And you're right, I do need therapy, counseling, a shrink, or something. Jay, I shouldn't love a player this much. See, the rest of the world sees an unorthodox stretch mark 5. I see beauty.
Not a stretch mark 5.
Brains. I see great hands, great feet, Paul. I love the Joker so much.
As good as he is on offense, let me tell you something. It's going to be a nightmare for him in the pick and roll with LeBron and AD. Because when LeBron's coming off, and if they're going to switch or show whatever they're going to do with Joker, because you got to understand, that's one of his biggest weaknesses in what I saw over the last couple of rounds, is the teams are putting him in pick and roll pretty much 90% of the time. And so he was daydreaming against Utah in the first year, in the first series when Donovan Mitchell was getting off. But this is going to be a nightmare with LeBron and AD.
Well, the good news is we got plenty of time to break down that Western Conference Finals Game 1. We're talking about footwork. We're talking about stretch mark 5s. How about one that won the WNBA MVP award happens today? Asia Wilson, congratulations of the Las Vegas Aces. Look at the emotion that she had after it was officially announced. Okay, she was first on 43 of 47 MVP ballots, averaged 20 points, 8 rebounds.
He's ever seen, and Magic has seen a lot. The block was even more remarkable when you consider the force that Tatum was coming with. Bam told me that as he made the block, 2 of his fingers actually went numb, and he was still feeling it yesterday when we sat down for a one-on-one conversation. Take a listen.
Tatum out front, got downhill, couldn't punch it. Bam says, get it out of here.
Your coach, Eric Spoelstra, made the point that some guys would not have even gone up for that they would have been afraid they would got embarrassed, be on a poster, not made the play. What's your mindset in moments like that fear doesn't enter your mind?
During that moment, it's the playoffs. We were already in overtime, and you can clearly tell nobody wanted to go into the second overtime. So at that point, you just full out effort. Give us your body. That's kind of been our saying in the bubble world. Like, just sacrifice your body for your teammates. We all done it, and it was my turn.
That's why he's the heart and soul of our team, right there, on the defensive end. We appreciate him. I know that I damn sure do.
Well, Jimmy Butler says you are the heart and soul of the team. For a third-year player that, by the way, has Jimmy Butler on it, that is quite a statement. What do you think when you hear that?
Great credit. You know, he sees how hard I work, my work ethic, and, you know, I want this team to be better. I hold myself to a high standard. Well, you mentioned your work ethic. I know where your work ethic comes from. You have a mom who made sure you had everything. She was raising you by herself in a trailer. And you took a picture of that trailer and you had it as the background on your phone for a while. I know you had a picture taped in your locker. You write the address sometimes on your shoes. Mm-hmm. What are you trying to remind yourself with that? Just where I come from. You know, I came from nothing to get here, literally. So, and it always takes me back when I write it on my shoe or when I have a shoe and I think about it. It just takes me back to those memories of how I was living before I became the 14th pick in the draft, and really just thinking about it and all the hard work I went through and the ups and downs with my mom. You know, it's just been a whirlwind. Before you became the guy that Magic Johnson's tweeting about? Yeah, that guy. That guy. That guy. It's not just that Bam's play has made him such a key part of this Heat squad. It's his personality fit with the team at large, particularly Jimmy Butler. Bam has no problem with straight talk. No one has to manage his feelings. And he can not only take it, he can dish it out. Jimmy told me that Bam has gotten in his face plenty when they're not connecting right. And instead of being upset with the 23-year-old, Butler has only gained more respect for him. Maria, back to you.
Well, Bam said it's been a whirlwind. How about this? He's been a difference maker for the Heat the entire season. During the regular season, he became the second player to lead a team in rebounds, assists, blocks, and field goal percentage. He joined Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who did this for the Bucks in 1974-75. So I think, Jalen, that means that we're all on the Bam wagon.
Yes, indeed. You see that name? You go ooh and ah when you jump in my car. People treat me like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That's Public Enemy, Maria, not the Migos.
Okay. Don't do me.
Well done. Late in the game, you want to get the ball to Jason Tatum, rightfully so. They try to get a little switch action right here, and of course, you want to have all of your defenders paying attention. And then all of a sudden, Jimmy Butler gets him one-on-one. Jason Tatum with the great crossover. And now he's driving full steam ahead. And look at this. Look at this ability to get above the rim. Bam is barely off the floor. And then all of a sudden, with that left hand, Bill Russell is somewhere smiling. A right-handed player, blocking the shot with his left hand. Sacrificing his hand, his wrist, his arm, his career. The anatomy of an iconic playoff play. And here's what I like. The fans getting basketball in the bubble. What? Getting basket. We giving the people what they want.
You got to.
In the bubble.
You got to.
Congratulations, NBA. Off to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Welcome to the Eastern Conference Finals. And Jason Tatum would have loved you to not break down that play right before his game, Jalen. But we do expect to see some greatness from this guy who, again, we keep talking about his ascension is astronomical.
I mean, look, the big thing for Jason Tatum is down the stretch, they can't lose their continuity. They can't go to ISO ball.
All right, here's what we know for sure. The Heat have a culture that everyone wants. We break down how they forged it on Countdown.
Think about it. Take a second. Matter of fact, you should take 4B and think before you took a little skateboard beat.
Welcome back to NBA Countdown, presented by Mountain Dew.
Welcome back to NBA Countdown, Maria Taylor. We still got Jay Will. We still got
Hold on,
Jalen
Niecy,
Rose.
hold up. Hold on right quick. I got somewhere to be real quick, all right?
You got... Okay, Uncle P. So we give you one thing.
Really? A black George Jackson?
Now he runs the whole show. I guess it's time for the hologram interview presented by AT&T 5G.
Oh, I'm headed to the bubble. Oh, man. Oh, Kimba's there. What's up, Kimba? How you doing, man? It's Paul here.
What's up, P?
Hey, man, I know it was a tough loss last night. How are you feeling, and what's the state of mind of the team today?
Yeah, it was a tough one, but, you know, you live and you learn. You watch film, you get better, you adjust, and, you know, it's only game one, so, you know, we're going to try to go out there, you know, go hard and get a win.
You said you were terrible. You know, I know you've been struggling a little bit offensively. It's different from being in Charlotte now. You got other guys that can take that offensive load off you, so you're not always the #1 guy. So, what do you think you have to do to get back on track offensively?
I just got to get back to being myself. For the most part, I think it's more mental than anything. You know, I got to get back to being my upbeat self, being positive, and just finding a way. You know, my teammates, they trusted me. They trust me to be the leader that I'm capable of being. You know, the offense will come. That's the least of my worries right now. You know, it's really just, you know, encouraging my teammates and being positive like I normally am.
All right, listen. I heard an interesting fact about you, man. And, you know, I've been watching you a long time at Connecticut. You got some of the best footwork in the game. But I also heard that you danced at Apollo, man, at the age of 10. Do you attribute that footwork to you being a dancing guy on Apollo? That young man?
I don't know. My pops always said that, but I don't know. I ain't really rolling with that one.
I feel you, man. All right. Last but not least, man, a lot of guys in the bubble chose messages on the back of their jersey. You chose Love Us. Tell me why, and what does that mean to you?
We had a bunch of options to choose from. Of course, Black Lives Matter is on the top of the list. And I figured a lot of guys would choose that. And then when I seen love, it's like, who doesn't want to be loved? Regardless of your race, your gender, whatever. Everyone wants to be loved. And You know, in this point in time, you know, this is about our community, you know, my community, African Americans. I wanted to be loved, wanting to be seen, wanting to be heard. Love it just stood out to me. I'm really happy that the NBA allowed us to, you know, put those messages on the back of our jerseys. You know, it means a lot to us, and you know, hopefully it's sending out a strong message.
Well, Kemba, it's been nice talking to you, man. Good luck in Game 2. I know you guys are going to turn things around.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
All right. Beam me up, Scotty. I'm out of the bubble, baby. Gotta go.
Uncle P, please come back. Just come back from the bubble. When does he get back?
Come back,
His boy,
Hey, listen, the one great thing about transportation is just changes your clothes, you get more comfortable, then I can get my clothes back on, back to work. Man, you can do all that during the transportation, man, I'm telling you.
That boy a professional.
He's a professional.
And of course, Kemba was dancing. He was born in the Bronx, the birth of hip-hop.
Listen, you better dance in the Apollo. Okay, Uncle P, you got your business suit on again, so the first thing I'm going to need you to do is go back to Game 1 real quick, live in some misery. Tell me what happened to your Celtics. Up 14 in the fourth quarter. What changed? Was it a Celtics problem, or was it something the Heat changed and were doing that changed the outcome?
The Heat just kept doing the things that they do. The Celtics just couldn't make shots. The one thing is, you know, we say they got stagnant, but check this out. That's what makes them great. They got guys like Tatum and Brown who can make these tough shots in isolation situations. They just didn't fall late in the game. They had some timely turnovers. Yeah, there were some timely bad shots. If they can get rid of that, they're going to be all right. I mean, the game was pretty much even. The rebounds, they didn't turn it over. Kemba has to step up for him because of the lack of depth. If they can get Gordon Hayward back in the series, which we don't know what will happen with that, but Kemba, he has to be the key to this team right now. We know what Jason Tatum's going to bring. Brown, he has to step a little more, but the key to this team right now with the lack of depth is Kemba Walker.
Off wax, we've argued about this for years, and Paul will tell you, between who are we drafting between Tatum and Jalen Brown.
Yeah.
And he's always taken Tatum, and I've always taken Brown. And as Tatum has ascended, Brown is now the answer to my question, to your question, because when he scores over 25 points, they don't lose.
Right.
Every time Jalen Brown gets them 25 points, they're undefeated. We know he's going to hustle and play up front against multiple bodies. But when he's making his buckets, the Celtics have been virtually unbeatable this year. That's the guy I'm looking for.
And Jay, that proves the point about this team being stagnant offensively down the stretch, right? Like, look at the passes that they made in the second and third quarter. 112 passes in the second quarter, 81 passes in the third, 60 passes in the fourth. So when they go to iso ball down the stretch, what does everybody else end up doing? I know they can score. Jason Tatum and Kemba are great, but Jalen Brown ends up just watching. He becomes an observer. He barely got any touches down the stretch.
That's a great point, fam, because what the Heat do is they switch everything, and then they flatten you out. And so Jason Tatum, one of the best isolation players in the league, he'll still get you a high percentage shot. But for Kemba, we're going to zone you.
Exactly.
We're going to trap you. We're going to make sure that you don't get going, and that's why he's been suffocated the last couple of games.
Yeah, we mentioned it coming into this one, Uncle P, that the Heat, they had chosen to zone the Celtics more than any other team that they had played during the regular season. But let's talk about the Heat even more, because it seemed as though their execution, late game scenario, late game situation, it bested the Celtics. I mean, did you notice that in Game 1?
Well, absolutely. But when you look at the Heat roster, they don't have guys that can go one-on-one and say, here, we'll give you the ball and get you a bucket, outside of Jimmy Butler. The rest of these guys, they need movement. They need back cuts. They need screens. And that's what makes them so effective. They can do all these things. And they look similar to the Golden State Warriors, although they don't have that superstar punch or that explosive guy who can go off for 50 like Steph and Clay. But they move well without the ball. They know they're going to be unselfish. They're going to make the extra passes. And these guys, they're shot makers. And so when you help off one guy, the other guy's ready to make the shot. And they're doing a good job making the extra pass.
You're right, Uncle P. The Heat right now 9-1 so far in this postseason. Wow. Yeah, it's pretty impressive through 10 games what they've been able to do, considering the one player on their roster drafted in the top 10 is Andre Iguodala. Okay, Marcus Smart, he's shooting the rock though. That's one person that has stepped up for the Celtics so far.
And also defensively, you know, one of the things Paul talked about, sustaining that level, that high level of energy throughout the entire game with all the continuity plays that Eric Spoelstra and the Heat run, that's going to be the challenge for the Boston Celtics down the stretch. It also takes away from their legs offensively.
All right, we're breaking down the Heat now, but remember, they are built on a culture of players. Which team is up? Which team is on the horizon? And which team is just over the hill? But what happens after the sun sets on your second era-defining empire? What do you do when the confetti stops falling and the empty bottles of champagne are long since swept up under a rug? As it turns out, the answer is 1, be miserable, and then get to building again. That is Pat Riley's Heat culture. George Sedano has more.
There's winning and there's misery. That's the phrase famously coined by Miami Heat president and living legend Pat Riley. The mantra for the franchise that he steered for 25 years.
I hated to lose. I always thought there would be severe consequences for me if I lost. I think at times I tried to conjure up inside of me an emotion that was unhappy because it made me miserable because that's what I took to my players every day.
During one 9-season stretch in Miami, the Heat went to 5 finals appearances and accumulated 3 championships.
It's back-to-back titles for the Heat.
But with all that winning, there's been some misery too.
You want to trend something? I'm pissed, okay? So go ahead, get it out there.
Summer of 2014, LeBron James left Miami to return to Cleveland. Next, Chris Bosh was forced into early retirement after an unfortunate health issue with blood clots. And then, the best player in franchise history, Dwayne Wade, and the Miami Heat decided to part ways via free agency. Even Riley himself admitted Miami had slipped. But out of that misery came a new incarnation of winning, building this Heat team on drafted and undrafted players alike. And then, with an assist from Wade, Riley landed his new minister of culture, Jimmy Butler. 1 season later, Riley, Spoelstra, Butler and company have found themselves in the Eastern Conference Finals facing the Boston Celtics. Now, everyone is talking about Riley and the Heat culture.
If you don't compete defensively and you don't give extra effort plays, you're not going to play. That's just how it goes when you play for the Heat.
We've heard Tyler Hero say, it's like, we just follow Jimmy Butler.
A lot of the young guys do 4 a.m. workouts. It's just a different level.
That's worked out for the Miami Heat so far.
Riley describes the culture this way, as being the hardest working, best conditioned, most professional, unselfish, toughest, meanest, nastiest, most disliked team in the NBA. And the Godfather always leads by example.
Pat Riley, I mean, you and I, we go way back. You are just competitive as I am.
Riley was once in the business of coaching the Showtime Lakers through a bitter 80s rivalry against Danny Ainge and the Celtics. Then years later, now a Celtics executive, Ainge criticized then Miami forward LeBron James on a local Boston radio show. Riley made it personal, issuing a statement through a Miami team spokesman that said, quote, Danny Ainge needs to shut the up and manage his own team. He was the biggest whiner going when he was playing, and I know that because I coached against him. It's Riley's kind of culture that has driven the Heat to 8 conference finals and now sit 1 series away from Miami's 6th NBA Finals during Riley's tenure. At 75, one thing is always clear. Pat Riley has made a culture of turning misery into winners.
Good stuff, George. The Godfather, Pat Riley, and the culture with the Heat is why we certainly can't ever count him out. But why don't other teams have the culture? Why haven't they been able to cultivate something similar?
You know, you have to give Eric Spoelstra so much credit. I mean, everybody kind of overlooked him because he had LeBron James and D. Wade and Chris Bosh, and they won those championships. But just, I mean, he was a video assistant. Right? He's worked his way all the way up the food chain, and his attention to detail, combined with Pat Riley, his leadership, also ownership leadership, and Nick Arison, this team has the right foundation for success because they work for it each and every day. Plus, they also translate the energy of Jimmy Butler.
Absolutely, and you heard the term Godfather used, and I've affectionately called the Miami culture the Miami Mafia because once you join, you're into the death. And when you go play against them, you see it. You see Alonzo in the front office. You see, I've seen their family just mushroom and grow until it created a culture that can land a LeBron James and a Chris Bosh. But here's my question to the world, and I know I'm showing my age here. Do you guys believe Pat Riley is a better coach or executive? And I'm going to start with you, Paul Pierce, in the history of the league. I've seen you from Inglewood. You saw those 5 championships as a coach with the Showtime Lakers, with Magic and Kareem. You also saw him do it with Wade and Shaq. Better coach or executive, Pat Riley?
I'm going to say he's equally both, Jay. You know, he was able to do it with the Lakers and then as a coach. And then he comes there and does it as a coach in Miami. But then as a GM, you know, he brings in LeBron. He puts together that big 3, and they had an unbelievable run. I mean, that's just almost like what he did coaching, because when you can have that type of success, when you can bring a championship as a coach and a GM, I mean, what more can you say about the guy? And they do have the culture, and it starts from the top, and it works its way all the way around. He just has that demeanor that, you know, when the guys that he handpicks, they have to have this type of competitive demeanor, and you see it all the way down the line, and that's because of Pat Riley.
I'll agree with him on this. I think both. You know, first off, getting LeBron James to Miami, no little feat right there, okay? And then look at the talent that they've been able to draft. I mean, you're able to get Duncan Robinson. Like, I called college basketball. I watched Duncan Robinson play in college. You didn't think he was going to be a starter in the NBA? Get in Tyler Hero, right? Like a guy that didn't go like number 1 or number 2, but finding those value draft picks. And then also Kendrick Nunn, who played for the Golden State Warriors G League team the year prior. I mean, finding the diamonds in the rough and building the right ancillary pieces around the foundational piece in Jimmy Butler, that's what he's great at doing.
But also taking attributes of a player that aren't necessarily about stats. Your work ethic, your accountability, your discipline, and the ability to now put that into a team. Jimmy Butler's squads that he left got worse in Chicago, in Minnesota, and in Philadelphia. And we wondered, was he the problem? Now they're all watching him in the conference finals, and we're praising the culture that he joined because it's a perfect match.
Tweeting things like, what if? Real talk.
That's
Joel Embiid, like, what if?
Yeah. I mean, Jimmy Butler right now, the perfect fit at Miami.